Glyn Bryson from OneTouch.io.
Yes.
Thanks for dropping by, much appreciated.
Yes, good to see you, David.
Is this your first time at the CyberTech?
It is, yes, first time.
If you don't mind, just giving us a quick overview of what you guys do for customers, what's the problems you guys solve?
Yeah, so OneTouch.io takes a really unique approach to what's called sensitive data discovery. We take a holistic approach to identifying all of the personal sensitive data across an enterprise and provide to corporations actionable insights that allow those companies to reduce their security risks and their regulatory risks. And we do that primarily three different ways. One is that we essentially provide a high level of accuracy at scale. Number two, we basically do that in a way by deploying the product, relatively speaking, easily, because most technologies are difficult to deploy. Ours is relatively easy to deploy. And third, we do that on a continuous basis because part of the challenge with personal sensitive data is that it's constantly evolving and being added to any enterprise's environment. Why? Because new customers are always being added, new employees are being added, that data is being shared once it's been added, and so it basically is exploding across the enterprise. So the level of complexity with the amount of personal sensitive data that corporations have to manage from a security and regulatory point of view is at the heart of what we do.
So how do you differ, for example, from data loss prevention type of solutions out there? It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, DLP solutions are actually solutions that we will typically enhance. They don't have, while they do a really good job at data loss prevention, they don't really have a rich set of personally identifiable data to work with. Many of them do have a discovery capability inherent in them, built into them, but they do what I would call an inch deep and a mile wide. We do, a mile deep and a mile wide within the enterprise. So we will basically take the catalog of sensitive data that we create as a result of our discovery process, and then that data will be fed through a rich set of APIs to a DLP, to a SOAR, to a SIM solution.
Interesting, and I'm assuming that the industry right now is driven by a regulatory environment that pushes for discovery of the personal identifiers and personal information, and then controlling that. GDPR, for example, is that one of the drivers behind this?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So yeah, GDPR, CCPA, LGPD in Brazil. You've got the New York Shield Act. There are many different privacy acts that are actually working there through many of the states. Virginia just passed their own law. The federal government in the US is actually also in the throes of putting a privacy law in place. And of course, there's a lot of talk in the press about this. Right. So yes, absolutely. In order to be able to comply, you need to know where all of that data is. So let me give you a graphic example. Let's say you're a customer of Best Buy, and you want to know what personal data does Best Buy have about you. Well, you have the right as a citizen to send an email to Best Buy and say, hey, please send me all of the personal data that you have about me.
Or I'll trade it in with a $50 gift certificate.
There you go.
Provide that
there you go.
I love Best Buy.
There you go. Yeah, I think we all do. I mean, it's a great company, right? And so when Best Buy receives that request from you, they have 30 to 45 days, depending on the state, to respond back and present to you a list of all of the data that they have on you. And then you have the right to go back and say, okay, and this varies by state, so don't take what I'm saying literally. I'm giving you a generalization of how we help companies comply. Generally, you can then with the benefit of what our solution produces, that company, Best Buy, could then respond back to you in a very timely manner with a comprehensive report of all of the PII they have about you, your first name, your last name, your home address, credit cards that they might have on you, and other personal data. You then have the right to go back to Best Buy and say, you know what, I want to reserve the right to have you delete all of that data. Or I want you to know that I moved 6 months ago, the data you have on me is inaccurate, please update your records. But if you invoke your right to erasure, as they call it, then that's a pretty big task for any company to go find all of the data about you. Now, why is that the case? Well, it's because your data might exist in 5 or 6 different repositories within Best Buy. Let me give you an example. Let's say the last time you bought from Best Buy, you actually went into a retail store. That retail store system, when you check out and you buy whatever it is you buy, is not the same system that if you went online and bought something from Best Buy. You might assume that their systems are integrated. It's a pretty big challenge for companies. So what we do is we present all of the data about David back to Best Buy in a way that all of the bits of data about you, regardless of where they exist in the enterprise, whether in a database, a file share, an application, a PDF, an Excel, we'll tell you where all that data is, so you could go in and erase it.
You know, it's a super interesting problem, and I'm assuming it's not just for large enterprise. I mean, we did bring out a large enterprise and how they deal with it, but I'm assuming, you know, even SMBs have data, and even these guys are collecting the data a certain way. So, what do these SMBs do today if they wanted to control that as well?
You know, just to be brutally honest with you, our product is really designed for Fortune 2000 companies, or companies that have a large volume of customers. So typically B2C companies are companies that we work with, and large financial enterprises, large healthcare organizations, where they have literally tens of millions of customers. That becomes a huge technical challenge for those types of companies. So smaller companies typically don't have, you know, millions of customers,
right.
So the nature of the problem is not so significant.
Well, I like your honest response, and since you're in the honesty business, you know, it seems just very appropriate.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for dropping by. Much appreciated. Looking forward to maybe seeing you in the after-hour events.
You're very welcome. Thank you, David. Cheers.
Cheers.
Take care.